So let's get stuck into core topic 1. Core topic 1 is about project management, and the system development cycle forms the basis for this topic. So we'll go through this quickly. Understanding the problem, planning, designing, implementing, testing, evaluating and maintaining, that's your system development cycle. So I've picked out a couple of points from this topic that I know my guys struggle with very regularly. I've gone with decision tables and I've gone with conversion methods. So we'll start off with some decision table stuff. Decision tables are pretty regularly hard to understand. We get into double negatives, so I'm going to talk you through this one. So this is a question from 2003 HSC, and there's a decision table given and a multiple choice question against that. So let's have a look at it. So a little bit of a scenario here. The decision table is used to assess insurance claims. So either somebody's pranged their car or somebody's broken into their house. And it's got some conditions listed and some actions at the bottom. Now, the very name of this explains to us what we do with these things. They help us to make decisions. So have a look at the conditions and have a look at the actions carefully and see if you can get your head around those. There's then a set of columns with a heading rules. So what we do is we have a look at the ticks and we follow the ticks down the columns. So let's have a look at the first column. The loss is under $300. Police report is submitted. They've both got ticks. We'll follow that down to the bottom to the actions where it says claim accepted or claim rejected. And you can see there's a tick in claim rejected. So what does that mean? What that means is if the loss is under $300 and a police report is submitted, then unfortunately the claim is rejected. So there's one rule, one decision that we've come up with. Next column. If the loss is under $300, there's a tick there, and no police report submitted because it's got a cross, then unfortunately that claim's rejected as well. Let's have a look at the next one, next column. The loss is under $300, well that's got a cross, meaning that the loss is over $300. This is where we get into these tricky double negatives. Police report's been submitted, it's got a tick. That claim is accepted. The last column, I think you can work that out. So the question says, which statement is always true? I think it's an important point in that is the word always. So the answer for this one is C. A claim is accepted if the loss is $300 and a police report is submitted. So what we've got there is that's looking at option or column number 3, police report submitted over $300 because of the cross in the first one, and we get a tick in the claim accepted column down the bottom. So they get a little tricky. We end up with those double negatives. It's really important that you take the time if you get a decision table to understand what the rules and the actions are before you move on and have a look at the question. So let's move on to a short answer question from core topic 1. This one's really scenario driven, and I'll let you have a read of the scenario, but what it says is that there's a number of businesses and they deliver cooked pet food to customers. The brand that they're using is Gourmet Bites. So currently each business receives its order by phone and they've got manual systems in place and then they deliver the system. But what they want to do is they want to change their system so that there's a phone order and then the phone order would be converted into an information system. That data would be stuck into an information system, and then the order will be transmitted electronically to the closest branch of the 8 for delivery to the person who requires it. So the section of this question that I've chosen is an implementation plan needs to be developed, and we want to convert from the manual system to the computerized system. And the question says, briefly describe 4 conversion methods and then recommend and justify an appropriate conversion method for the organisation. So there's 2 parts to this question. We need to briefly describe the 4 conversion methods that we know, and then we recommend and justify the appropriate conversion method. So let's have a look at a sample answer. What I've done here is I've divided it into 2 sections. The white section is the definition of the system, and then the green section is the justification and recommendation. So you can see in parallel conversion, definition at the top, and then justification below. Same thing for pilot. Similarly for phased. And then when we get to direct, you can see that at the very bottom, the answers said that this is probably going to be the best method. So we're making our recommendation that direct cutover would be the best answer for these guys. So we're going to talk about this at the very end, but what I've pulled out here is I've pulled out the notes from the examination centre and the marking criteria. So you can see that for 5 marks in this question, the response has to show a sound understanding of the conversion methods and then adequately describe and recommend and justify a recommendation on each of the systems and which one you think is the most appropriate. It says that most candidates had a decent understanding of the 4 conversion methods, but the better responses included appropriate recommendation and justifications. So that's about just dividing it into those 2 sections.